Well, thanks very much, Dave, and good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see you all here. I'd just like to acknowledge Sir Paul as Chair and Peter as CE of Sport NZ, but also all of you who are working very actively in the sport and recreation sector in New Zealand. This is a photo of me actually with my football team, or some of them, on Saturday morning. So, like hundreds of thousands of other Kiwis, I get up every Saturday and get involved, in this case, with my local football club, which is Birkenhead United. And I've been coaching this team now. This is my second season with them, and I can tell you I get a huge amount of enjoyment out of that, because when you see how these kids have progressed since last year, which was very much like a crowd control exercise, to now being able to follow the ball around the field, to understand concepts like, you know, working as a team and passing the ball, I can tell you it's extremely satisfying. So I did that on Saturday morning. Then Saturday afternoon, I'm a member of the Northcote Tennis Club, and I play in an interclub team, so we went off and we were very thrilled because we won our semi-final. So we're in the final of the North Harbour D6 grade next week. Must say, in the men's doubles, which I was playing on a side against Browns Bay. They had an 81-year-old, so we're really on a hiding to nothing, because you know, you don't want to be too tough, but then again, if you lose, you look pretty stupid as well. So anyway, that's been my weekend. I know you've got some great speakers here today. You've got Tim Keating, who is going to be speaking next. He's the CDF. I was out actually at the opening of the Battle Training Facility in Ardmore on Friday. They do things a bit differently out there. So Tim used to command the SAS. Instead of cutting the ribbon, they actually blew it up, literally. So that was quite entertaining. You've also got Declan Hill, who I heard speak in Montreal earlier this year on match fixing, and I can tell you he is well worth listening to. So you really have got a great lineup over the next few hours. And then, of course, we've got the dinner tonight and the awards, which are going to recognise excellence and commitment in the sector. So the theme of this year's conference is leading in a complex world, and it's crucial the sector has a good understanding of the challenges that New Zealand faces, and a clear strategic direction and a plan to ensure that we meet those challenges. At a strategic level, if you look at all the work that we're doing across government, a key focus is for agencies, ministries and ministers to work across portfolio boundaries to achieve better outcomes for New Zealanders. While we're all aware of our success in high-performance sport, there's an increasing emphasis in government circles on the contribution that sport can make right across the social sector. Although the linkages are often complex, a simple description would be that physically active kids who are participating in sport are healthier and more focused in the classroom. That all feeds into better educational achievement, which statistically means better social outcomes for any given cohort. In short, as far as kids are concerned, it's into sport and out of court. Sport and recreation makes a significant contribution to New Zealand's economy, all up about $4.9 billion a year, and that's 2.3% of our GDP. Households spend $1.7 billion on sports goods and equipment. The economic, social, health and personal benefits of sport and recreation to New Zealand have previously been estimated at over $12.2 billion. With so much at stake socially and economically, and with the clear linkages to national identity, it's crucial that we have a clear direction for the sector. Last year, I launched Sport New Zealand's strategic plan and the community sports strategy for 2015 to 2020. These strategies have been shaped to respond to the changing trends and challenges and set a clear path ahead for increasing sport participation and outcomes. The strategic plan focuses on 4 areas: young people, strengthening the local delivery of sport, especially in low participation communities, ensuring traditional sports pathways remain strong, and driving high performance outcomes through High Performance Sport New Zealand. The community sports strategy is designed to deliver a participant-centred system which increases participation. Currently, the delivery of community sport works well in some parts of the country, but not so well in others. We need to focus both on sustaining our high participation rates and growing participation in targeted communities. It's timely that Sport New Zealand has also kicked off their project Future-Proofing the Active Recreation Sector, which will ensure that we better understand the sector and how it can contribute to getting more Kiwis active. This government invests $20 million a year in Kiwi sport. Regional sports trusts invest some of that money into priorities identified in their communities to increase the participation of young people. Sport NZ is also realigning some of their community sport investment in regional sports trusts to ensure support is available in that area. Also, in partnership with Auckland Council and Active Auckland Sport and Recreation, Sport NZ is targeting low participation communities in Auckland. That initiative will see investment of $1.2 million in projects to increase activity in some targeted groups, particularly through families. There will be research to identify specific issues and demands in the communities, and also an action plan for the development of volunteers who enable sport and physical activity opportunities. During times of tight fiscal constraint, Sport NZ has been one of the few government entities which has seen funding increase substantially. The funding has increased from about $58 million in 2008 to $87 million in 2015. With additional funding for infrastructure and lotteries grants, Sport NZ's total funding has almost doubled, and proportionately, that is a higher increase in the vote than any other vote across government, health, education, the lot. The benefits for New Zealand from such investment are significant, including our positive international brand exposure and inspiring participation in sport at all levels. However, if we want to continue to receive more, we need to be able to quantify the return on the government's investment. I've asked officials to develop a way of measuring this so that I can report to my colleagues what exactly we are getting across the whole government spectrum for that considerable amount of money. Hosting major sports events in New Zealand offers many benefits, from an economic and tourism perspective to boosting our reputation and profile overseas and increasing Kiwis' participation. Since our successful hosting of the 2011 Rugby World Cup, we've continued to build a reputation for hosting world-class international sporting events. And of course, last year we successfully hosted the FIFA Under-20 football event and co-hosted the ICC Cricket World Cup. We're looking forward to the World Masters Games next year, as well, of course, to the British Lions Tour in 2017. In terms of high performance, New Zealand's system is world-class. With the establishment of High Performance Sport NZ in 2011, results have continued to improve year on year. The government invests $62 million annually in High Performance Sport NZ, which provides a one-stop shop for all of the high-performance athletes' needs, allowing them to concentrate on winning on the world stage. And success on the world stage is absolutely important. It provides role models to inspire people and encourage participation, which leads to a more active, healthier population. It promotes New Zealand internationally, and it brings the country together. We achieved great success on the world stage in 2015. The All Blacks, of course, became the first team to win back-to-back World Cups. The Black Caps and the Silver Ferns both made it to the final of their respective World Cups, and the Kiwis Rugby League team won the Anzac Test match. Rio is shaping up to be our most successful Olympics ever. Around 220 Kiwis will compete in Brazil, the largest ever team that we've sent to an Olympic Games. High Performance Sport NZ are confident that we'll reach our target of 14 medals in the Olympics and 12 gold medals in the Paralympics. And Sir Paul has certainly been telling the Prime Minister that, so we better do it. It's important that the high performance system continues to deliver if we're going to meet those wider objectives that the government has in sport. So as I said, you're going to be hearing from Declan Hill on the issue of match fixing. The integrity of sport is paramount. Whenever the integrity of sport is questioned, sport itself is the biggest loser. Sport NZ, High Performance Sport NZ and Drug-Free Sport New Zealand continue to work with the relevant agencies to safeguard the integrity of our sports system from the growing international threats of corruption, match fixing and doping. In New Zealand, we have an anti-doping framework that's very effective, and Drug-Free Sport NZ provides crucial anti-doping education. And in my capacity as Minister of Sport and Rec, I currently represent New Zealand, along with Australia and Oceania, on the World Anti-Doping Agency's Foundation Board. We've taken a holistic view to match fixing and implemented a range of measures, including legislative reforms, a national policy, and an education program. Sports integrity is an evolving area, and it's important that we keep ahead of the bad guys. As I've said, we've got high rates of participation in sport and rec in New Zealand. 3/4 of adults, that's around 2.5 million people, take part in sport and rec every week. 89% of children take part in organised and informal sport at least 3 hours per week. However, things are changing, and New Zealand is not unique in its drift towards a more sedentary lifestyle. It's a global trend. Maintaining high participation is only going to become more difficult. Urbanisation and other societal trends are changing the ways that Kiwis participate in sport. Technology is changing the way people interact with each other, and people are trying to fit sport into increasingly busy lives. New Zealand's demographics are also changing, and the sports sector has to adapt accordingly. Our communities are becoming more and more culturally diverse. Kiwis still participate in sport in high numbers, but they're making different choices. Traditional sport's still popular, but there's high demand for less formal active recreation options. The sector needs to meet that demand if sport is going to continue to be such a positive force in New Zealand communities. As I said when I spoke to you last year, I'm keen to continue to leverage my sport and health portfolios to help encourage New Zealanders to live healthy, active lives and to tackle childhood obesity. Being overweight or obese is expected to overtake tobacco as the leading preventable risk to health in New Zealand within the next 12 months. It seems incredible, but we are the third most obese nation in the OECD. Tackling the rising rates of obesity and chronic disease is a key priority for the government. It's not an easy task and there's no silver bullet, and that's why we developed a range of interventions in the government's childhood obesity plan, which I launched in October last year. The plan contains 22 initiatives across government, the private sector, communities, schools and families, and it's a mix of new or an expansion of existing services. It focuses on children, as that's where the evidence shows we can have the greatest impact. We're taking a life course approach, which is evidence-based. By focusing on kids, we also expect to be able to influence the whole family. At the core of the plan is a new child obesity health target, and that's one of the government's 6 headline national health targets. We want to see 95% of children identified in the before school check as being obese referred to a health professional for an assessment. That will allow them to access the support that they need, from family nutritional advice to help with activity and lifestyle changes. It's important to note that we're now one of the very few countries in the OECD with an obesity target and a comprehensive evidence-based program to support it. Community programs such as Healthy Families will also continue to be rolled out across the country. We're also working with the food industry on the role that they can play, including appropriate advertising and food labelling. As regards the sugar tax, despite the impression you might gain through the media, there's actually no conclusive evidence that a tax on sugary drinks decreases obesity. It's a very different situation to tobacco, where progress on smoking rates has been made with a taxation rate in the hundreds of percents. In Mexico, the tax on sugary drinks is just a few percent of the total price. However, we are watching the results of 2 major international studies that report in 18 months' time, and we will assess the next steps then. Last November, we launched a new high-profile public awareness campaign to encourage people to make healthy lifestyle changes. It's fronted by a number of high-profile New Zealand sports stars, including Valerie Adams, Casey Kopua, Israel Dagg, Brendan McCullum, and Shaun Johnson. Big changes start small encourages people to start making small changes to have a long-term and positive impact on our children's health and well-being. We're also focused on getting kids to do more physical activity. As part of the Childhood Obesity Plan, we're expanding the Sport and Education program in schools and increasing and focusing investment to target low participant communities. In February, I launched Play.Sport in Upper Hutt. It's a community-based initiative to improve the quality and quantity of PE and sport in schools and in our communities. The government's spending over $8 million over the next 4 years on Play.Sport, and that's also being supported by the Ministry of Education and ACC. 34 schools and local communities in Waitakere, Auckland and Upper Hutt, Wellington, are receiving hands-on support, training and practical assistance to deliver quality sport and physical education opportunities for our young people. For the past 3 years, Sport NZ has been driving an approach to changing teaching practices in secondary schools with at-risk young people. Sport and education schools use sport to make learning relevant for young people. That's been a powerful tool to improve outcomes for disengaged learners, including academic achievement, student attendance, behaviour and general engagement. The New Zealand Council for Education Research recently completed an evaluation and found that in all participating schools, the results have been consistently, and in some cases dramatically, positive. The approach, supported again by the Ministry of Education, is currently in place in 8 schools, and a further 22 schools will adopt it this year, with the overall goal of 40 schools over the next 3 years. So as you can see, it's a great time for people up and down the country to be engaging in sport. You in this room can take a lot of credit for making that possible, and I want to thank you for the contribution you're making on an ongoing basis to keep the sector vibrant and successful. The government wants New Zealanders to be living healthy and active lives. By encouraging activity in our kids, we also feed the pipeline of future sporting talent, which in turn inspires the next generation of kids. I think we're up to the challenges ahead. The New Zealand Sport and Recreation Awards tonight will be a great chance to celebrate our success. Kia ora and all the best for the rest of the conference. Thank you.